We did identify out of that 29 new cases overnight, but I'm extremely pleased that nearly 5,000 citizens came forward and got tested. It also demonstrates the capacity we do have for additional testing. So if you do have symptoms in those areas we've identified, please come forward. If you work with vulnerable people or you're in touch with a lot of people, please come forward and get tested anywhere across the state. It's really important for us to maintain that level of testing. I also mentioned that during this time of restrictions, we're taking it as an opportunity to expand the capacity in our health system to make sure that when the virus gets worse and is more spread through the community, which it will be, that our health system has the capacity to take care of everybody. We've already doubled the number of ICU beds, but today I'm pleased to announce that we're also making a number of upgrades and differences in a number of hospitals to make sure we cater for people with COVID outside of intensive care. Often after people come out of intensive care, they need extra care. They're not well enough to go home, but they still need hospital care. And obviously these patients still need to be isolated, protected and given good health care. So in places like Royal North Shore Hospital, there'll be a new ward for these COVID patients, as well as in areas like Maxville and Mudgee. There'll be improvements in those hospitals in those areas to make sure that there's sufficient capacity to take care of people outside of ICU units who have COVID. But also in places like Dubbo, we're actually increasing the ICU capacity. And Minister Hazzard, the Health Minister, will outline in further detail what that means for our hospitals. So it's not just increasing ICU capacity, it's also about making sure our hospital wards can cater for COVID patients who aren't well enough to be at home, but they're not sick enough to be in ICU. And this is an important step as we prepare the health system for the upcoming months. I also wanted to thank and congratulate 2,500 small businesses that came forward in the last 3 days to get a $10,000 grant. We knew there was a gap in support for smaller businesses who weren't paying payroll tax, who weren't getting any relief. That system went live on Monday this week, and already we've had 2,500 small businesses come forward and get a $10,000 grant. So if you're in that category, please contact us and to make sure we can pass on that to you. But if you're any type of business, any type of organisation that feels you can advantage or take advantage from a federal or state government initiative, please contact our 24-hour, 7-day-a-week service here in New South Wales through Service New South Wales, 13 77 88. If you need information on anything to do with COVID, any information on assistance, on where to go to, 13 77 88, please contact that number. We'll make sure you get that help. I also wanted to provide further certainty to parents and teachers and school communities about school. New South Wales has consistently said that the first 2 weeks of Term 2 will be the same as the last few weeks of Term 1. That means most students will be at home learning. However, from Term 3, we'll be announcing further changes or more face-to-face contact. But I wanted to stress, this does not mean all students are going back. This does not mean all classrooms will be full. What it does mean is that New South Wales is considering a roster system to provide at least some aspect of face-to-face for each student. But can I stress, we aren't proposing or supporting at this stage full classrooms and every single student going back at the same time. What we are proposing or what we are considering are options around a rostering system which will have some students go back on a particular day to increase that level of face-to-face. Because the alternative is that, unfortunately, students could face up to a year or longer at home, and we don't think that's appropriate. So we do need to take these initial steps on how we can introduce face-to-face teaching at some level in Term 2, and we're having those discussions as we speak with all of our stakeholders, our communities, our school communities, to make sure we get that right. But I wanted to assure everybody, going back to face-to-face teaching in week 3 of Term 2 does not mean full classrooms. It does not mean back to normal, and unfortunately will be a very long time before we get back to normal. But it does mean a type of rostering system, and we'll be able to provide you with further details on that. But at this stage, all parents and teachers and school communities will have about a month to prepare for that, but also it gives us time to make sure we've got everything in place so that everybody not just is safe, but feels safe in that school environment as well.